Discuss, no problem.
بليز
This tire
ما
man.
عنده أي شيء ما عنده. شنو عنده؟ صاحب عائلة هذا صاحب عائلة.
They're being arrested.
But both were led away despite their pleading.
They're suspected of a killing that's happened around this area. I can't say any more than that at the moment, until it's further evidence.
Iraqis were shown celebrating that killing last week. The bodies of Sapper Luke Alsop and Staff Sergeant Simon Cullingworth were later shown lying in the dust. As the men were driven away, the soldiers said they'd recognised the son and he's their main suspect. But both are being questioned at a British base. The calling to account of Saddam Hussein's henchmen has begun. Roland Burke, 5 News.
Have worn on, there's been more and more time to devote to making conditions here a bit more comfortable. This is my personal invention, a flycatcher, a bit of oatmeal biscuit, rancid yoghurt, sugar and water, a little slippery slope for them to slide into, and about 10 caught so far. But believe me, this is nothing compared to what some soldiers have come up with to make life around here just that little bit more civilised.
It's a portable toilet, which is made from an old box off the gun CS.
This is the Mark II fly swap, made up of the plastic from a 7.62 link ammunition box with lots of holes punched in it, and a bamboo cane that allows good flexibility to kill as many flies as possible.
A few of the guys got the shovels and spades together and dug out a certain part of what the bulldozer's already put in here for ourselves. Managed to acquire some slabs of granite rock and bits and bobs, stack it all up and try to make it a bit like a bathroom sink.
We're going to be here for a long time, so we built ourselves a little boudoir, some little seats and bunk beds, you know, to keep us comfy, because we don't know how long we're going to be here, so might as well get comfortable. You know.
Whose design was it?
Billy's design. He started off with the flooring and then went on from there, really, didn't it?
Yeah, just grew. Sort of pulled in and was in a pile of mud, nothing else on a slope. So we went over, got some concrete slabs, put a patio in.
One key symbol of Saddam Hussein's power was removed today, the airport named after him. After a brief battle, American armour from the 3rd Infantry Division secured the runways and terminals. All around lay the burnt-out planes of Iraqi Airways, destroyed in the recent bombing. Today, the Americans renamed it Baghdad International Airport, the gateway to the future of Iraq. Underneath the 6 square miles of the airport lies a warren of bunkers and tunnels, which have not yet been searched. At least 50 prisoners were taken, but the fighting here was relatively light. American confidence is growing by the hour. For the first time today in over 2 weeks, we were allowed to remove our chemical suits. The Americans say the Iraqis no longer can coordinate any large-scale attacks. They say the city of Baghdad is effectively encircled.
It's symbolic in that it's an icon of the regime, and so I think that just strikes an important emotional chord, not necessarily for us, but for the ability of the regime to retain its stranglehold, but yet it can't control this.
We found people on the streets today losing their fear, waving at the tank columns, moving towards the capital.
Are you welcome, welcome?
Just a few days ago, scenes like this would have been quite impossible, getting out of an armoured column inside one of the towns on the Euphrates. But people seem to be losing their fear, and we're getting a very good reception.
The Americans here still believe there may be significant battles ahead before this war is won. Gavin Hewitt, BBC News, south of Baghdad.
North towards Baghdad, an armoured column of American Marines, waves and smiles from Iraqi villagers. But suddenly, everything changes. A little up the road, an ambush. About 40 of Saddam's militiamen opened fire with rocket-propelled grenades. Delta Company's machine guns reply.
Guns going everywhere. My scouts were shooting at crunchies running along the ground and stuff, and just people running back and forth with weapons, and I was like, who's firing?
Then heavier weapons are brought to bear on the enemy, mortars and artillery. Within minutes, fiercely armoured Cobra helicopters are circling in support of the ground troops, picking at targets, clearing the way forward. Ambush and retaliation is the pattern here. This time, no US troops were killed or injured. The number of Iraqi casualties is unknown. And as the advance on the Iraqi capital continues, the Marines have claimed a significant victory against the NETA division of the Republican Guard, the unit which had been defending Baghdad's southeastern flank. They have ceased to exist as an effective fighting force, an officer here told us. More than 2,500 of those men are said to have surrendered. Far more are thought to have died in the fighting. David Willis, BBC News, with the US Marines on the outskirts of Baghdad.
That the real battle's being waged. Radio 2 Rivers fights for the hearts and minds of Basra's people. It pumps out confident British military messages. This is called a psychological operation. The antennas point straight towards the city's 1.5 million people. In this hidden tent, a military cartoonist hones the point. Saddam out. These cartoons are turned into leaflets. Tonight they'll be dropped in their thousands over Basra. Britain's message that the people should rise up against Saddam. The men behind this keep their identities secret.
It's not propaganda. Propaganda is a dirty word for us. There's absolutely no deceit involved. We tell the truth, and the reason we tell the truth is because it's absolutely critical that we retain credibility with the Iraqi people.
But this morning, when the message was delivered to a villager here, he was wary and unconvinced. His family were hiding in the house, scared to be seen with British troops in public. We like you but don't trust you, he said. When you leave, Saddam's men will punish us like in the last Gulf War. On many streets here now, British military rule is the new reality. To the Iraqis, British troops are strangers, and random checks are no recipe for making friends.
Light change. Is it really President Saddam Hussein? Is this enough to convince skeptics that wonder if he might be dead after the outset of the coalition bombing at the beginning of this campaign 16 days ago? The Iraqi leader standing up there, smiling and waving. One of the ways that Western analysts contend that they can tell whether or not it's President Saddam Hussein is whether or not he speaks. We haven't seen all of the videotape. Rula Amin, our correspondent along the Iraqi border inside Jordan. I wonder, you're looking at these pictures as well, Rula. Join me, what do you think?
I just saw the pictures. Well, it's amazing, Jim, because it's all these attempts to find out where Saddam Hussein is. And if this is Saddam Hussein, he's out there. According to what we have been hearing is that he was there checking the places that had been bombed, the damage, checking out on the people. We have been able to recognize a couple of the places where we saw him there in Baghdad. One of them is Al-Mansur neighborhood. Actually, one of our cameramen even recognized one of the restaurants. So and you can tell that the reaction around him from the people is very spontaneous, it seems. We are used to Iraqis usually with organized shows, with organized demonstrations. This seems like a spontaneous outpour. It's people who are under bombardment in Baghdad, the American troops so close to them, and yet they see Saddam Hussein on the street. It's probably at least very exciting. Jim?
I don't think I've ever seen him in a position like this, mingling among his people, slapping hands. Usually he is back very far from the crowds, isn't he?
Well, it's actually, we did see him in such setups before. It's usually scenes broadcasted on Iraqi TV, somewhere not only in Baghdad, but in different villages, in different areas in Iraq. But we usually, it's not us who are taking these pictures. We don't know how spontaneous the group and the reaction from the people around him is. We don't know how did he arrive there, who are the people who showed up. But in these pictures, it seemed it was very spontaneous. And I say again, it's the fact that under all this bombardment, everyone in Iraq knows that Saddam Hussein is the main target. Well, I'll tell you, Jim, we did see him in different...
This is different areas, isn't it?
Go ahead. It is different areas, and you can see that he didn't have a huge escort. We did recognize one of the people
knocking on the door of Baghdad. But the final push into the city could yet prove to be the toughest fighting of all. The patchy, somewhat disorganized defense of the airport last night has left coalition commanders with several questions. Have they done so much damage now to Iraqi command and control centers that they can no longer put up a proper fight? Or are the best troops simply withdrawing into the city to fight there, street by street? The answer to that could well decide how quickly they make a final push into the city. James Mates, ITV News, with the US Marines south of Baghdad.
Fight for a strategic bridge.
All morning, US jets pounded Iraqi positions on the road to Mosul. The airstrikes were called in by US Special Forces troops, and nearby Kurdish Peshmerga fighters prepared to move forward to take the strategic bridge at Hassan Shams. The final advance was on foot, and ahead of us US jets were still at work. There seemed to be little opposition, but then Iraqi artillery opened up. The shells flew over our heads and landed behind us. Near the key bridge, triumphant Kurdish soldiers tore down and destroyed pictures of Saddam Hussein. A few yards away, a pickup truck was on fire. As the Iraqis tried to flee the village, some of them didn't make it. This truck behind me was hit from the air, and inside it are the bodies of 3 dead Iraqi soldiers. The village appears to have been cleared. We're not quite sure because we are hearing the pop of automatic fire just every so often, but we believe that comes from a few Iraqi holdouts up on the high ground behind us. We crossed the bridge that the battle was fought for and found more Iraqi positions destroyed from the air. Kurdish troops were pouring forward, confident that they can now go all the way to Mosul.
We must go to Mosul because it is our city which Saddam stole from us.
The Kurds are now consolidating their positions less than 10 miles from Mosul. Ahead of them, the US Air Force is trying to open the way. But Iraqi artillery is still firing back. The battle for Mosul is far from over. Julian Mannion, ITV News, on the Northern Front.
Seizing the strategically important Haditha Dam have been killed by a suicide bomber. At a roadblock south of the dam, a pregnant woman jumped from a car moments before the vehicle exploded, killing her, the driver and the soldiers. But today has seen significant advances for the coalition, and there's likely now to be a period of consolidation. The next advance in the Battle of Baghdad, say US commanders, will be at the time of our choosing.
Well, now Luke Baker, a correspondent for the Reuters news agency, was with the American forces as they seized the airport. He joins us live now. Luke Baker, just tell us, did it seem to be a highly contested fight last night, or did it go pretty smoothly?
Well, John, initially there was not much opposition from Iraqi forces, and there was some concerns at the beginning of the battle that they found this underground network of tunnels, and they thought that perhaps there were forces planning a sort of a ruse or a trap on them. Then fighting really got a lot more furious, and it has been going on pretty consistently since then. A large task force of U.S. troops moved into the area. Now, the 2 task forces are there now trying to control the area. They have control of the area, and they've said since, actually several hours ago, since this morning here, that they have full control of the airport, even though there are still these pockets of resistance around the perimeters, and there are a large number of buildings in the whole complex that they have to clear out systematically to make sure that there are no small elements of Iraqi forces hiding out with mortars or with RPGs and potentially capable of causing some damage.
And
that
Luke,
said, I have also heard
are you still there tonight?
No, I've pulled back to the Euphrates, near where these chemical weapons, these suspected chemicals, have been found by the river.
Right.
Tank and a taxi. An everyday encounter in this increasingly surreal push for Basra. The British want to have a war here. The Basrans, on the whole, just want to get on with life. The soldiers say they've sighted militiamen in this western suburb. But what's this? Yes, civilians simply getting on with things and in the way. Dressing as civilians, mingling with them, the militiamen's most potent weapon. The Army's only answer, aggressive patrolling as they call it. First, find your target. In this case, the soldiers say it's a man with a rocket-propelled grenade in this building. So all day, tank patrols have been moving into Basra, attacking and pulling back to their base at the city's edge. The soldiers said they killed 8 militiamen, but there's no way of verifying this.
The opposition they're encountering isn't particularly significant. I mean, they don't have a great capability. They've got small arms, they've got RPG rocket launchers, and they've got, to some degree, an effective mortar system. And we saw the effects of that today, landing very close to our position.
Some shots were more than close. This Warrior armoured fighting vehicle hit by a rocket-propelled grenade, the round still embedded in its armour.
There was quite a few RPGs going around, and this vehicle was hit once from the side and had a second one which bounced off the road in front.
Only yesterday, a senior British officer described this operation as dipping a toe into Basra and seeing what happens. What's happening this morning is incoming rounds from Iraqi positions just across there in the shanty town.
There are 50 missiles inside there.
Moments later, the same guys who say they were forced to stash the weapons by Fedayeen militia lead No Slack Battalion's Bravo company into the school halls, apparently believing American soldiers would never target a school or go looking around in one. The weapons, a hodgepodge from the world's best makers to the homemade, lie out in the open.
Oh, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hand grenades.
Another room reveals rocket-propelled grenades with the fuses ready to go. For the American Joe, it's a picture-perfect moment. Everyone wants in on the action.
Big gold mine, baby, big gold.
A third room reveals mortars. It has all the smell of a successful hunt.
It's 10 pounds of explosive to take care of that.
Taking away Saddam's weapons has the engineers whose job it is to blow it all up salivating. These ID cards may prove to be the biggest find of all. The Fedayeen are rarely captured with their ID or weapons.
They seem to be not having it on them when they're caught or when they're questioned, but they seem to have a cache somewhere. There's probably plenty other caches that we know about.
When the work was done, the school was gun-free, something No Slack soldiers hope to repeat one building at a time. Ryan Shulko, CNN with 101st Airborne, Najaf, Iraq.
Of desert, there was plenty of it. It seems likely the ammo dump was first attacked from the air. Surprisingly intact, we found the remains of what the soldiers believed to be a cruise missile. No bodies were found at this site. It seems the people who worked here fled when the bombing started. They were wise to do so. This container load of shells took a direct hit, flinging shards of metal casings across the desert floor. Before we left, there was one more building to clear.
That one clear?
Yeah, clear. Nearby, there were more munitions, and these were even marked with their country of origin, and they were ones the soldiers did not want to leave behind. There's too much ordnance here to destroy it all, but these rocket-propelled grenades, apparently produced in Jordan, and anything else which can be easily spirited away and used to attack US forces behind the front line, are going to be blown up. At the same time, and just a few miles away, a memorial service was being held for 3 American soldiers killed in an RPG attack earlier this week. Carl Dinnan, Channel 4 News, Iraq.
Coming out on the streets to meet with his people. But you can definitely see the anti-aircraft artillery over Baghdad. These are night scope pictures. We don't have any reports, right now we don't have any reports of any actual bombs falling in the last few minutes from Baghdad. Reem, let me go back to you and ask you just about, you say you talked to people inside Baghdad, their attitudes, what they thought about the fate of President Saddam Hussein, perhaps before these 2 pieces of videotape, one the message, the other his appearance on the street. What were they thinking? Those were two good questions. When was it made? Is it really him? But a third question could be, does it really matter?
Hello, Jim?
Yes. Reem, does it really matter
Yes.
whether or not it's him? Does it really matter whether or not it was made earlier, that video of him on the streets? It's still sending the same message to the Arab world, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what I was, what I meant to say. It doesn't really matter, Jim.
Reem Brahimi. Reem, I want to thank you. Reem joining us from Amman, Jordan. Again, the presidential palace compound in Baghdad hit once again by coalition bombing.
Pictures from through this area en route to Baghdad. Recoilless rifles welded to the side of motorbikes. US troops are still securing the area here. Today we travelled with them as they inspected what had been a large Iraqi ammunition dump. We picked our way carefully past the open chutes of already exploded American cluster bombs, and we came across what looked like a deserted artillery piece. All was not as it seemed, however. This fake gun had never fired a shot.
The Iraqis would use a mock-up like this for a number of reasons, perhaps for deceiving our unmanned aerial vehicles or any of our human intelligence which is running around, to get the Americans to target areas that did not actually have any of their equipment in it.
It seems likely the ammo dump was first attacked from the air. Surprisingly intact, we found the remains of what the soldiers believed to be a cruise missile. Nearby there were more munitions, and these were even marked with their country of origin, and they were ones the soldiers did not want to leave behind. There's too much ordnance here to destroy it all, but these rocket-propelled grenades, apparently produced in Jordan, and anything else which can be easily spirited away and used to attack US forces behind the front line, are going to be blown up. Carl Dinnan, ITV News, Iraq.
As they crossed the Tigris bound for Baghdad, the Marines haven't had it all their own way. Ambush and retaliation has been the pattern all the way to the capital, culminating in this 5-hour firefight in an industrial area on the outskirts of Baghdad. After a sniper opened fire, the Marines took casualties. Victory against the Nida division of the Republican Guard, the unit which had been defending Baghdad's southeastern flank. They have ceased to exist as an effective fighting force, an officer here told us. More than 2,500 of those men are said to have surrendered. Far more are thought to have died in the fighting. With troops now at the gates of Baghdad, the question is, what next? Will the Allied forces wait outside the city or push ahead and risk being drawn into a potentially long and hazardous urban conflict? The most difficult phase of the war may be about to begin. David Willis, BBC News, with the US Marines on the outskirts of Baghdad.
A flare and the rattle of gunfire cuts through the night. US forces are launching a massive pre-dawn strike on the central Iraqi city of As-Samawa. The battle rages through most of the day, though the deck is overwhelmingly stacked in favor of the US 82nd Airborne Division.
The enemy had artillery landing on them, or they had JDAM munitions dropping on them. See? That's what I'm talking about, using a sledgehammer to crush a walnut.
Weapons fire echoes across the city, targeting key points such as the Ba'ath Party headquarters and military barracks. With well-rehearsed urban warfare tactics, US soldiers sweep forward, block by block, street by street.
The attack was designed to smash a local stronghold of Iraq's Fedayeen paramilitary militia. As a consequence, coalition supply routes between Kuwait and Baghdad should become safer as this provincial center comes under stricter US control.
US soldiers say they opened fire on this car after it failed to heed their orders to stop. They say they suspect the occupants were suicide bombers. Iraqi civilians appear terrified by the fighting, but edgy US soldiers captured some of those who simply appeared to be scurrying out of the crossfire. This man was held on suspicion of being an Iraqi resistance fighter. His family members tried to intervene, but they too were ordered out into the street. In an effort to portray themselves as a liberating force, not invaders, US troops say they've tried to avoid harming civilians. I saw one man dead and dismembered in his home, and others, including women and young children like little Hurrah, wounded by shrapnel. The victims say these were American bombs and munitions, but US combat doctors can't say for sure.
No, it wouldn't be safe to say that. I couldn't speculate on that.